Welcome back to JDM Legends presented by Turn 14 Distribution. Today we attempt to refresh the RB all in one episode. For those of you that are just tuning in, what we have done is something pretty crazy. We've taken a complete stock pristine GTR and yanked the motor out, and we now have an R33 RB26 right here, and my plan is to shelve this thing and use this as an engine to build and modify, because of course I'm trying to keep that thing as original as possible, so I don't want to mess with this. So the plan for today is to tear this thing down and then build it back up. I'm hoping we can get this done in an episode. You never know. I've never tackled one of these engines, so we'll see how things go. Intake side is off of the RB, and with ITBs does come a bit of complexity, but you know what? It's well worth it, DP.
Is it? There's a lot of stuff going on in there, buddy.
There was
like
a ton
the rat's nest of stuff.
Like check the bottom. This is like what bolts to the head. This here, and there was just like all these vacuum lines. I think this is for your idle air control, and then
a rotary motor? Like what's with all the lines everywhere?
And then there's some cooling lines.
Couldn't get a wrench on anything.
Some
the
other
2J
lines.
is just so simple and elegant, and this thing is like it's trying to compensate for its lack of displacement with complexity.
But this is a real race motor. Look at this. Look at ITBs, man. Look at this thing.
Yeah, I'll look at points for the ITBs.
There you go. Look at that. Look at that. Oh yeah. Look at that carbon build up there.
Let's complicate things with ITBs when we could just jam more air in there with a turbo.
Well, listen. We keep, every time we buy one of these JDM cars, we keep finding the silicone of death here.
Yeah,
and I think this engine is next level. Look at the thermostat in here. I didn't pull it out yet, but like, look at the amount of goop here. Like, okay, guys, okay. I'm gonna, it's probably bending it already, but okay, let me see if I can like twist it maybe.
Need a pry bar?
Holy
crap. What is going on?
Pry bar, bam. There it is. Wow. That is a lot of silicone.
Who takes their GTR to a mechanic that does that?
There was previous posts in the comments about this kind of stuff, and the reason is the strict rules in Japan. If you have a car that's leaking, you're pretty much screwed.
Oh, really?
Yes. So what they do is when they piece these cars back together, they pretty much silicone everything. They're not worried about the next service. They're worried about this thing leaking, which means you have this kind of thing, or like, look at the silicone on the water pump here. Like the goop coming out the backside of the bolt. Like the guy just went full ham on this, man. Like look how thick this is. So
well, I've never heard that about the leaks being like a big issue there.
Yeah, and the next issue here is this cam angle sensor. I tried to remove it, and it does not rotate. This, first of all, should move. Does not move. I just sprayed some WD-40 on here to try to like start getting it to free up. Okay, look, it is moving.
It is moving.
So we have movement here. We have movement. Maybe if I go back and forth a couple of times here.
Yeah.
These chips of the valve cover. Okay, it feels like it's moving.
I wonder if they like silicone that.
Okay, look. Now we have movement. Now we have movement. Okay, there it goes. We have movement. Whoa. Okay.
Wow.
Well, what I did as well was I did remove. Yeah,
Is it an O-ring?
that is a bit of an O-ring, but it was seized onto
the cover.
The cover here. Look, wow, look at this.
Yeah.
What is left of this gasket? Like, look at this thing. It's like, it is next level rotten. Holy crap! Like, it's been a while since I've seen a gasket that rock hard. Like, look at that thing.
Is that $100 gasket or?
You know what? Oh, I didn't order one. Now, let's have a quick peek here at the timing belt. This is a good sign that the timing belt has not been changed in a while. You can see these little micro cracks everywhere along here. Once we get this belt off, we'll have a closer look at it, but this right away tells me this belt has not been done. Let's see what happens here, guys. Oh, Milwaukee once again comes through. And DP, who's got the bigger nut, huh? RB or 2J?
That is a big nut. It's a 30
I should call it a bolt, but you know what?
Yeah.
Like,
I'll give you that one, PT. You've got the biggest nut.
Look at my spacer. Oh, look at the girth of this bad boy.
And once again, the RB boys are having to compensate for their lack of displacement with beefy bolts and nut references.
And now does this just wiggle off? Of course not. Jeez, man.
I'm gonna just break those bolts.
Is it? No, it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. There it is.
That is a beefy
Oh
unit,
my God, man, this thing is huge. I mean, it runs 3 belts on it. Look at that. Now it is time to take off the lower timing belt cover, and I once again was like, uh-oh, I forgot to order the little gaskets that run along here. And then I had a closer look. I'm like, wait a second. These don't look like gaskets. Is it possible that somebody laid silicone down along here? I'm sure you're supposed to. But like, this is a masterful bead. Look at how.
That's got to be a rubber gasket, doesn't it? Like, it's so even in its thickness and everything.
I don't.
Like, wouldn't that squeeze out and kind of flatten down?
Maybe. Like, look at it. Just looks almost too perfect. Yeah. Or maybe you do run a bead again. We are certainly not GTR experts, so this is the first time we're seeing this. This is the first RB we're tearing down.
Is that cover metal?
It is metal. Yeah.
Wow.
Twin turbos, a job that many fear to do, and for good reason. Boy, that was so much work to take off. Holy crap. Granted, we did remove the turbos, downpipes, and the exhaust manifolds in one piece. Thank you to Up Garage who suggested doing it that way. I was about to start like trying to take the turbo off of the manifold, but then I looked at it, you couldn't slide it down. So they come off as one piece, which was good. So this is the rear one, and you can see the inlet and everything is like super clean, tidy, and the inlet on the front turbo is like super dirty. Like the turbo spins up fine. Like there's no crazy shaft play. So I suspect this is like where the inlet I think was pointing upwards, where it's at a JDM yard and sat, and a bunch of like dirt and debris got in there. I don't know. If you guys know why it looks so black and a little bit rusty, let me know in the comments. And the other peculiar thing is, you can see there are 2 studs that are holding up this outlet pipe. So the rest of these are missing nuts, which is kind of crazy. I'm surprised it wasn't leaking, but it looks like it was holding together. this extra little capacity added on to the side here, which is,
I agree.
which is pretty neat. And the front diff running through the middle of the pan, as we mentioned before. The plan is to actually run this diff. I have ordered an R33 GTR V-Spec rear diff that we're gonna swap in, which will give us the 411 gear set. Tommy F. loves it. I know the up garage guys also say it's such a response thing. So we're going to run that. I hope that that R33 diff is gonna fit up. And as you can see, the engine has been washed. It's looking a little faded enough where I'm gonna get Dave to do the old Pour 15 engine enamel on here. I think it's certainly worthwhile, especially now that this thing is so torn down.
There you have the RB26 looking much better thanks to this engine enamel from POR 15. This stuff is not cheap. This can cost us, I think, 57 bucks Canadian, so it's probably around 40 bucks a can in the States. But it does do a remarkably good job, and I really like the brush-on approach as opposed to spray bombing it. We've used spray bomb engine enamels before. You know what wouldn't happen with a Supra engine, PT? The oil pan wouldn't fall over because it doesn't have a big heavy diff attached to it.
God, that was bad. That was bad, but thankfully nothing is damaged. We were trying to drain all the oil out of it, and yeah.
It was a slow motion fall,
But what happened? Like, there was nobody over there. Like the 2J Ghost came by and said, you know what? Screw you, RV.
Get this garbage out of my shop. That's exactly what happened. And speaking of 2J, I put this same POR 15 enamel on it, as you guys would have seen before, and right now it looks very glossy because it's still wet, but it dries to like a semi-gloss finish, I would say. It's not quite a satin finish, certainly not a matte finish, but it makes it look fresh and new again, and it does do a really good job of preventing rust from spreading. Really, that's what this is. As much as an enamel, it is a sealant so that this thing is not going to get rusty and crummy looking again. So, and I like the brush-on method, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by that oil pan, because you don't have to mask everything off. It's not like a big job the way it is to spray bomb it. So you can use little brushes and get it everywhere it needs to be. You have better control, I find.
Our turbos are now somewhat torn down, and that is because I will be reusing the factory exhaust manifolds and the factory outlet pipes. I tried hard to get some aftermarket ones. I know Tomei makes a great set of both. They were out of stock about 3 months ago, and still to this day, I haven't been able to find them. And truth be told, I'm interested to see how these will perform. The interesting thing is, on these, you can see here, this area right here is certainly a restriction that's happening. On the factory turbos, if you look here, there is also, they're kind of like matched up to that, so the R33 ones, but there's a ton of exhaust gas just showing there, but that is only because the gaskets that they provide, you can see, have that space. However, with our new turbo, which is right here, you can see the exhaust gasket goes on, and there's significantly more area right here. And what I want to do is now take this and port match it to this. So what I'm going to do is outline this, because you can see the exhaust gasket is still a little bit larger on this area here, but what I'm going to do is outline it from this size and match this perfectly to here. So you can see porting is done, and it wasn't too bad with that Milwaukee like die grinder and a proper bit. I managed to clean it up and shave a lot of like this side here. That was the edge that kind of like had that taper. And at this point, what I think I'm gonna do is, these aren't looking great, so I'm gonna have these Cerakoted And then same thing with the outlet pipes. As you guys can see, the cams have now been removed, and that is because it is time to do a job that I don't love to do, and it gives me anxiety now. Every time I work on a 2J DP that's come from Japan has issues with their valve stem seals. Every one of them, I think I've probably done 3 or 4. I talked to a bunch of people about the RBs, and most guys say these don't have valve stem seal issues. However, I'm going to do them just because I'm a little worried. I do have a new set of them. And here, I already pulled one of them right here. And if you look at it, it is old and it is kind of crusty. So I'm not saying that this was leaking, but it certainly looks like it's not as malleable and soft as it should be. So maybe I am doing the right thing, and if we would have put this motor in and it would have smoked, my heart would have sank. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this job. If you've watched our 2J episodes, skip ahead because it's essentially the same thing. First thing we're going to do is we've got our OTC cylinder leak down tester, and I'm going to put compressed air into here, and that's going to pressurize the cylinder. And you want to do that because you want to be able to not have that valve drop in when you take everything apart. Here I have a Lyle valve keeper removal tool, and this tool has a magnet in here. So now what I do is put this on the top of the retainer here and smash this with a hammer. Oh, I got 1 out of the 2 there. So you see there's another one still stuck in there, but you can see how this tool works and how great it is. So I'll give this another hit. There we are, and it's as easy as that. Now, using these special pliers, I'm going to remove the valve stem seal, and you can see they certainly do look toasty. Here I have a new OEM valve stem seal, so I just drop it on just like that, and then what I do is I come in with this tool that is a part of the plier removal set. Now I just push it down there. And my trick for this has been, you kind of tap it until you hear the sound change, the note change. Right there. And now it is down, and we reverse this process. So you can see here I've got the keepers on the retainer, and I'm going to drop this back onto the valve spring. Now this Lyle tool comes in with 2 pieces. You can see that was the piece I used to remove it. You put this guy in here to put it back on. That goes in the middle, and then we'll see if I can get this done in one blow, but you hit this by pushing down on it. Oh. Bam, 2 hits, 2 hits. And look at that, guys, back in. You can see it's certainly a much easier process than the conventional way, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen. There's like a whole adapter that bolts on here. You've got this like pivot arm, and you push down on it and all that jazz. Like this tool here is a lifesaver, as is the pliers. I'll make sure all of this stuff, I'll link it in the description below if you guys are interested in it. We are beginning the assembly of this engine, which is exciting, and I am starting off with these cam studs. They're not head studs, they are cam studs from Tomy. And the purpose of these is for higher lift cams. They give you a more even clamping load. For camshafts, we are going with a set of Tomy Poncams 262 duration. And the reason I chose these was I did a bit of research, and what I really like about them is that they obviously have more duration than the stock cams, but they do it at a ramp angle that's much less steep than most of the aftermarket cams, which reduces wear and stress on the valve train. It's not as peaky. And of course it opens the valves up a little bit longer, creating more power. Now, there's been a lot of talk, I think, online about these cams breaking, because Tomy does include this camshaft installation warning, and you can see the cams break. And I did a bit of reading, and I pretty much understand what's happening is people are installing these incorrectly. As you guys can see, we already did one side, And as long as you take your time and do their instructions where you like take 180 turn or 180 degree turn and follow the sequence, you can get this cam bolted down easily. What I think happens is people put these in, try to go and do the factory procedure and like crank them down too quickly, and of course they can snap. Hooray, no snapped cams. We follow the instructions and look at that, they're bolted in place. Speaking of bolted in, you can see we have our Oem adjustable cam gears bolted on. And I opted for these because I watched a video, a motive DVD video, where Andrew went into the benefits of, you know, things to do for an RB, and one of them was cam gears, because you can adjust the power band with by adjusting and retarding the cam gears. So these I think are a very, very worthy addition to any RB, which is a good thing. And you'll also see we have this here, which is a trigger wheel. We are switching out the factory trigger to a new NZ wiring trigger setup. And that includes this really good Bosch, I think it's called a reluctor sensor, something like that. Anyways, this is gonna be much more precise. It's gonna give you better RPM stability, which in turn is gonna give you better fueling. It's gonna make the car deliver more power and all that jazz. I think it's also a very, very worthy upgrade. This right here is arguably what people would call the Achilles heel of the RB, which is the stock oil pump. The fact of the matter is that these tend to fail and explode. I once again turned to Oem. They just revised their oil pump. So they've actually been making this for, I think it was like 25 years, and this is their newest design. You can see with this pump, comparatively to this one, it is much bigger, and that means it flows so much more. And inherently, these with the stock gears inside are the ones that explode. This now goes to a 3-piece setup with a high quality alloy, which means they're not gonna fail that way. The other notable factors on this is you can see versus the backside here, look at how many bolts are used to hold the back casing and cover, which kind of keeps everything together, makes sure it doesn't crack. This cover is also thicker than the factory one, so there's that. And really the super cool thing too is this is adjustable, so you can adjust your oil pressure through this here by configuring it differently. So when you put this together, you can increase or I guess reduce your oil pressure, which is super cool. So it is an expensive piece, but you know what? For I think when you're building an engine, especially these engines now, they're so expensive. If you're going to be doing any type of track use, I think this is a must-have. You really don't want to skimp out on this, and for $1,300, it's really not that expensive considering everything. more progress has been made. We've got the full timing system set up and installed here. Of course, I'm using a reinforced Tomei timing belt just for that safety measure. And DP, I know the whole 2J RB battle has been going back and forth, but I think the real winner is the RB. And it's a measurement of girth and size. If you look at the water pump here, look at the size of this thing, DP.
It's a beefy
yeah,
unit.
yeah, and look what you're playing with.
Oh yeah, it's,
you know, like
kind of a
we've got ourselves a clear victory here, clear victory. I think the RB wins in that fashion. And also, I don't need any hydraulic tensioner to take up the slack because my engine and my belt is like moving around too much. This thing is a set it and forget it type of adjuster, which honestly is one of the first times I've seen that. I just had to, you know, crank it around a couple times and you let it sit there at its like natural resting place and you tighten it down and this belt is ready to rock. The other thing you guys may have noticed is I have the Oem Nissan Gasket and it was in a red-brown color and I just could not use it on this engine after seeing all of the orange goop everywhere else. I just grabbed some Honda Bond and sealed the water pump that way. And I think from here on out, I'm gonna use the Honda Bond. It's a shame this is that red-brown color because it just looks so ugly. These cars tend to suffer from a lot of oil being pushed up into the head while they're on the racetrack. So to mitigate that, I picked up a set of these PRP baffles that are made by Hypertune apparently. And what they do is you can see they just bolt onto the top of the cam caps. You do have to have these Tomei studs in order for these to work, and they just like mitigate all that oil being pushed up and then into your vents and then into your intake. So the other option is to run like massive catch cans. I didn't want to go that route. However, somebody was sleeping on the quality control aspect of these, and you can see this side fits up nicely, but this side here has somebody stamped this incorrectly or bent it, and you can see it's just like it narrows down like this. So it's not gonna work. Like I can't even fit it on here. You can see it's just like it's also weirdly bent up in this way. I don't know. I think at this point I'm gonna ditch these and go to something else. Like my other gripe with it is they don't include nuts for the install here. So you have to go get your own nuts. You know, when you buy these, you do need these Tomei studs as well. So it's kind of a convoluted setup. It's an expensive setup for something like this when you consider this is just like a piece of bent stainless. I know High Octane does offer a set of baffles that like bolt into the actual valve covers and they don't need any studs or anything like that. So I think I might go that way. If you guys have any other suggestions, certainly post in the comments.
In the continuing search for RB26 oil system reliability, because the last thing we want is PT to have excuses at the racetrack when his RB blows up and I race by to victory in my 2JZ powered Supra, we are swapping out the stock factory baffle. And as you can see, this is just a horizontal baffle that sits on top here, and in its place we are putting in a Tomei baffle system, which not only has a replacement for that top baffle, but more importantly has this lower baffling system with these, I think, quite brilliant rubber trap doors. I've never seen oil pan trap doors done with rubber before, but what I like about it is no nuts and bolts, no moving parts that, you know, whenever I put these kinds of things in with nuts and bolts, I'm always like, man, if that comes apart and that nut and bolt falls in the oil pan, bad things are gonna happen. So this to me is a really clever solution. And as you can see, it sits down into the pan like this. And as you can imagine, it'll allow oil in these outer areas to flow inwards to the pickup with these trapdoors opening, but the trapdoors won't allow oil to flow away from the pickup. So you're going to have a much more consistent source of oil by the pickup and thus prevent starving your bearings. Tomei does supply very detailed instructions, and one of the first steps you have to do is remove this drive shaft and replace a seal in here, because you need to drill holes, or I should say enlarge holes, that allow oil from this upper pan area to trickle down into the lower pan area. They want you to make those holes larger, I suppose, to improve oil flow for whatever reason. And we were not super keen to pull this out and have to order yet another seal, which might take days or weeks to get. And so we did a little homework, and sure enough, guys work around removing this by getting a very long drill bit. This is a foot long 3/16 drill bit. So these are 5 mil holes. Do a little math. This is like 4.8 mil, close enough to 5 mil that we're happy. And with the length of this drill bit, we'll be able to get in here and drill the existing holes out. Yep, go through. Beauty. Yep. And there we have it, the holes are drilled, and as you can see, the larger hole does come out slightly above the smaller original hole, but irrelevant. I mean, the oil's flowing from up here down there, so that's what really matters. Change of plans, not enough Honda bond for me, so PT stepping in here with the Permatax. Couldn't use that red-brown Nissan stuff, huh?
I couldn't, man. I couldn't do it. And yeah, so this is like the ultra black. I think it's their most oil resistant. It's got an interesting setting procedure. You have to bolt the pan on. They say finger tight, and then after doing so, let it rest for an hour and then come in and torque it to spec. So it's first of its kind for me. I'm sure there's a good reason for it. Probably lets like the outside cure a little bit. Okay. Oh, the oil pan is in place and torqued down, and that sadly means this is going to be a wrap. We have once again run out of time. I was hoping we get more done, but as usual, you know, things just take a lot more time than I expect. But I think we're building a really nice, reliable RB right now. In the next episode, you will see this beautiful thing from Remade in USA. Look at this, DP. This is like a perfect work of art, my God. I will get into this a little bit more in the next episode. If you wanna see more of this and more GTR and super content, make sure to like and subscribe. That certainly helps our channel grow. And if you're interested in winning our 350Z, go to the link in the description where you can buy merch and car parts, and that'll enter you into winning that 350Z. If you haven't watched that video series, go check it out. It's a good one. And of course, it'll make you want that car because it's such a sweet 350Z track car. So thank you guys for watching. We will see you in the next one.
Man, it is just so gratifying to finally be bolting on all of this stuff in the wheel wells, which is really more my cup of tea than all that turbo stuff in the engine bay. That's PT's department. This is more my kind of thing. And man, to be using really, really high quality stuff throughout here got me pumped.